You've probably heard the phrase, think like a lawyer, right? But what does that actually mean? Well, it's a very specific, structured way of looking at problems. And today, we're going to dive into how artificial intelligence is about to completely revolutionize it.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll start by really getting a grip on legal reasoning itself. Then, we'll look at the classic framework that lawyers have used for ages, see it in action with a real example, and then, this is the exciting part, we'll explore how AI is changing the entire game.
So, first things first, let's talk about this idea of structured reasoning. I mean, this is the absolute foundation of the entire legal profession. So, seriously, what does it mean to think like a lawyer? It's so much more than just knowing a bunch of laws. It's a repeatable, structured process for breaking down a problem. But the real trick isn't just having that process in your head, it's being able to explain it so that other people can follow your logic. And that's where something called the curse of knowledge comes in. It's a classic problem. Experts get so good at what they do, so deep in the details, that they literally forget what it was like to be a beginner. Things that seem obvious to them are brand new to someone else, which makes explaining their reasoning incredibly difficult. To get around that curse of knowledge, the legal world came up with a really powerful mental toolkit. Think of it as a blueprint that anyone can learn and share. And that blueprint is called IRAC. It's a simple acronym that stands for a four-step process: issue, rule, application, and conclusion. It's designed to give a super clear, systematic, and logical format to any legal argument. This four-step process is, no joke, the backbone of legal thinking. You start by identifying the main legal issue. Simple enough. Then, you state the rule. That's the law or legal idea that governs the situation. Next, and this is the crucial part, is the application, where you connect that rule to the specific facts of your case. And all of that leads you neatly to your conclusion. See? It takes a big, messy problem and breaks it into clean, logical pieces. And what's cool is how flexible this framework is. IRAC is kind of the original, but you'll see other flavors out there too. There's CRAC, which flips it around and puts the conclusion right at the top, which is great for busy readers, or CRESERAC, which adds an extra explanation step to really spell out the rule. They're all built on the same core logic, just shuffled around a bit.
Okay, that's the theory. But how does this actually work in the real world? Let's take a look at how you go from this abstract idea to building a concrete legal argument.
The best way I've ever heard this described is the recipe analogy. When you use a framework like IRAC, you're basically writing a recipe. You're laying out the ingredients and the steps so clearly that any other lawyer or a judge can follow your work exactly and, hopefully, bake the same cake. Reach the same conclusion. Let's make this real with a quick example, using that CRAC structure. Let's say we're arguing about whether someone's behavior was extreme and outrageous. We'd start with our conclusion, yeah, probably was. Then we'd state the rule, the legal definition of that phrase. Now for the most important part, the application, we'd actually compare the facts of our case to a previous case, a precedent, where a court already decided what extreme looks like. And based on that comparison, we'd circle back and restate our conclusion.
Now, for hundreds of years, that whole process of finding rules and digging up old cases was painfully slow and totally manual. But now, a powerful new tool has entered the scene and it's changing everything.
Just look at the difference. Traditional research is slow, manual, and you're often just guessing at the right keywords. AI, on the other hand, is lightning fast. It can process huge amounts of data, it understands the context of what it's reading, not just the words, and, this is key, it frees up lawyers to stop doing repetitive grunt work and start focusing on high-level strategy. And this isn't some far-off future idea. Lawyers are already seeing the potential. A recent survey from LexisNexis shows that a big majority of them see a huge upside for using generative AI in their day-to-day work. Things like research, drafting documents, and analyzing files. They get it. So how in the world does this tech actually work? How does a machine think well enough to pull off this kind of sophisticated legal analysis? It's actually a pretty wild process. First, the AI just inhales a staggering amount of legal text, case law, statutes, everything. Then comes the real magic. It converts all that human language into a mathematical format, into numbers or vectors. Think of it like giving every legal idea its own unique fingerprint. This allows it to compare millions of documents at speeds that are just impossible for a human. And finally, you have a large language model that acts like an orchestra conductor, pulling all the pieces together to create something actually useful.
So what this really means is that AI becomes this incredibly powerful partner for a lawyer.
It can pull up case summaries in a split second. It can look at thousands of past cases to help assess risk. It can provide data-driven insights that help lawyers make way smarter, more informed decisions.
Which, of course, leads us to the million-dollar question. What does all this mean for the future of law?
Look, the conversation isn't really about AI replacing lawyers, it's about AI augmenting them. By handing off the most tedious, time-sucking parts of the job to a machine, it frees up legal pros to focus on the stuff humans are still way better at: deep strategic thinking and creative problem-solving.
And think about this. AI isn't getting rid of that IRAC framework we talked about. Not at all. It's putting it on steroids. AI can find the relevant rule in seconds. And when it comes to the application step, it can compare your specific facts to an entire universe of prior cases. Way more than any human could ever read in a lifetime.
So that leaves us with one final big question to think about. As AI gets better and better at all the analytical stuff, what's left? What becomes the truly irreplaceable value of a human lawyer? Maybe it comes down to things like judgment, empathy for a client, the art of persuasion. The things that, at least for now, are still uniquely human.